Inflation and economic issues remain front and center for voters come November. With the Democrats hitting a reset on the top of their ticket, what kind of economic messaging does the party need to send forward to independents and more conservative voters come this fall to get votes from those camps? For more, we bring in former Democratic governor of Montana and co-chair of American Bridge 21st Century, Governor Steve Bullock. Governor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Of course, we really appreciate it. Listen, this is obviously a developing story over the past 24 hours, but I feel like the reason we're excited to speak with you this morning is because you have great insight into how to get independent voters to join your ticket. If you were to speak with Vice President Harris today, what is the single biggest piece of advice that you would be giving her in order to set her up for success in those swing states?
Yeah, look, and I think she knows this. I've known Kamala Harris. We served as attorneys general together and have known her all along. What we need to be talking about is making sure that everyone really has a fair shot at a better life. And the contrasts are really, really clear here, right? That 15 million jobs created under the Biden-Harris administration, but more than that, reshoring, manufacturing, making sure, though, also, and I know that she can prosecute that case of the real differences here. This is about people's individual pocketbooks, making them feel better, not about greater tax cuts for the wealthy and the corporations. This is about preserving Social Security and Medicare, which Project 2025 and a lot of the Republicans ultimately would cut. And even, you turn around and you say, all right, President Trump has kind of had his base at 45%. There's a lot of folks out there that are excited that they can do better and they don't want to return to the chaos of the Trump administration.
Governor John, it's great to see you here. I guess my question, though, is her ability here to communicate and form a bipartisanship here, potentially, if she were to be elected in November, and the ability to bring Democrats and Republicans together. And I think that is a critical question, especially among independent voters. How confident are you, given the fact that you've known her so long, just her ability to do that?
Well, if we look at the last few years, the major legislation that had passed, many of it had been bipartisan. And I think there is a hunger there for a reset. They certainly know that if Donald Trump was reelected, there would be no effort to sort of expand that pool. And when you look at sort of what people want and what people need, look, I do think that she can work with others. She's worked in the Senate before. She's been part of that, worked to bridge some of the divides that exist right now.
I want to ask you about something we heard on our program earlier from a historian who talked about some of the commentary from Vice President Harris throughout her career that could be seen as more progressive. She was obviously an advocate for women's rights, a strong supporter of women during the Me Too movement, obviously during the Black Lives Matter movement as well. And this guest earlier was saying that that could be a downside push for her campaign. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what we've seen all across the country is that wherever you live, women want to actually be able to access reproductive health care. And she's been prosecuting that case for the administration. I mean, I don't care if you're in Kansas, Kentucky, New York State, what we've seen with the Dobbs decision has really shocked people. So from that perspective, I think that she will be incredibly, incredibly strong. I think that when you turn around and say, look, 250-year experiment called representative democracy, which has been challenged under the last administration, when you still have a third of the members of Congress denying the results of last election, yes, I have no doubt that they'll try to find some of the most, some pieces that'll paint her in a way. But now she does have the chance to introduce herself and say, this generation is stepping up to lead, and we know that we can do better.
Do you think the vice president will be able to maintain her true political and policy beliefs that you know so well from knowing her throughout her career, or is she going to have to cage those a little bit to capture the broader vote here?
I hope and expect that she will be speaking to all Americans. That I recall after one of my elections, somebody said, I don't vote for you, or I didn't vote for you. And I'm like, Yes, I know that, but now my job is try to represent everybody along the way. So I do think that she will be able to reach out, and I think that the contrast is just so clear here. You know, even you put in J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance immediately when he's accepted the nomination said, you know, let's get away from the millionaires. Let's talk to the workers and let's fight for the workers. That was a day after the President Trump had said there's going to be another $800 million tax cut. So we'll be able to actually speak to the working folks and the independents that want to make sure that government doesn't crater, that government plays the role that it should, but also continues to build sort of this economy from the middle up.
Governor, as we talk about the Democrats' path forward here and what exactly the ticket could look like here come November, your name has actually been floated as a potential VP pick here for Kamala Harris. Is that something you would consider?
Look, I think the vice president's going to have a lot of time, or take the time, to figure out what would be best for both a working partner with her and I trust that she'll do a good job at it.
If it's not you, Governor, who do you think is the best pick for her right now?
I'm going to leave that to the vice president to decide. You know, I really am, that she needs to find a working partner. And I do hope, look, because we need to continue to build the coalition, build the base, more or less. So I do think she'll look at somebody that can be a complement to her in governing, and hopefully complement to her in governing both geographically and sort of what she wants to build.